The world is watching as President Donald Trump reshapes America's relationship with Africa in ways few anticipated. Nigeria, like Iran and Venezuela, has become a target of the United States' increasingly aggressive foreign policy under President Donald Trump. What started as threatening rhetoric has transformed into kinetic action, and the implications reach far beyond West Africa's borders. Let me take you back to Christmas night 2025. While families across the world celebrated, President Donald J. Trump posted on his Truth Social that the United States had launched a powerful and deadly strike against Islamic State in Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. These were not idle words. The U.S. military launched airstrikes on northwestern Nigeria's Sokoto state on Christmas Day, claiming that it was protecting Christians from what Trump called ISIS terrorist scum. The strikes came from an unexpected direction. The U.S. strikes, in collaboration with Nigerian authorities, are believed to have been by Tomahawk missiles fired from a destroyer stationed in the Gulf of Guinea. They hit 3 districts in Sokoto: Issa, Tangaza, and Tambuwal. This was America projecting power in Africa in a manner not seen in decades. But here is where the story becomes complicated. There is no credible evidence that IS maintains an operational presence in Sokoto State. Patterns of violence in the area also show that the overwhelming majority of victims are Muslims drawn from the same rural communities affected by banditry, displacement, and chronic insecurity. The White House's narrative and the ground realities appear to be telling 2 different stories. President Donald Trump said there could be more strikes by the U.S. in Nigeria if Christians are killed in the African nation, even as Nigeria has previously denied Christians there are subjected to systematic persecution. In an interview with the New York Times, Trump was unequivocal, stating, "I'd love to make it a one-time strike, but if they continue to kill Christians, it will be a many-time strike." If you are finding this analysis valuable, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, because there is much more to unpack here. Nigeria's population of over 230 million people is roughly evenly divided among Christians, who predominate in the south, and Muslims, who predominate in the north. While Nigeria has had persistent security problems, including violence and kidnappings by Islamist insurgents in the north, it strongly denies that Christians are subjected to systematic persecution. This is not just about religion. The U.S. airstrike in Nigeria, framed as moral intervention to protect Christians, reveals an Africa policy increasingly defined by selective engagement, counterterrorism, and Christian protector symbols. Analysts suggest this positioning resonates powerfully with Trump's domestic base. This symbol of Christian protector sits well with Americans and Christian nationalists back home, who form a core pillar of Trump's electoral base. Post-election research shows that Christians made up 72% of the electorate and gave Trump 56% of their vote. U.S. Africa's policy in the name of Christian protection thus serves both external and internal objectives. The administration's strategy aligns with a broader vision outlined in official policy documents. The airstrike in Nigeria reflects clear selective engagement and counter-terrorism, aligning with the 2025 National Security Strategy. The strategy emphasized remaining wary of resurgent Islamist terrorist activity in parts of Africa, while avoiding any long-term American presence or commitments. What makes this particularly striking is how little attention Africa receives in this new strategic framework. While scholars and pundits alike have focused on the dramatic reshaping of Washington's perceived ironclad relationship with European partners and allies, the new NSS also indicates a significant shift in how the United States will approach Africa. Those who have been watching the trajectory of the second Trump administration will perhaps find it unsurprising that Africa gets limited attention in the NSS, roughly half a page at the very end. Just today, new revelations emerged about the administration's true view of the continent. Africa is a peripheral rather than a core theater for U.S. interests, according to leaked communications from a senior State Department official. To put it bluntly, Africa is a peripheral rather than a core theater for U.S. interests that demands strategic economy. Framing Africa as strategic has often historically served bureaucratic and moral imperatives, not hard interests. Yet, beneath this dismissive rhetoric lies a fierce competition for something Africa has in abundance: critical minerals. Africa holds 30% of global critical minerals reserves per the U.S. Geological Survey. Just last week, President Trump signed a proclamation ordering the U.S. Secretary of Commerce and U.S. Trade Representative to jointly negotiate agreements with trading partners to address the threatened impairment of national security with respect to imports of processed critical minerals. Apart from oil in the south, Nigeria has vast reserves of critical minerals, including gold, lithium, and cobalt, mainly in northern and central parts of the country where insecurity is widespread. Some commentators believe these resources, not religious persecution, drive Washington's sudden interest. Trump has three possible motives: his mercantilist quest for rare earth minerals, his pandering to evangelical Christians, and his racist grievances, according to one prominent political scholar. The economic pressure extends beyond military action. In a move that sent shockwaves through the Nigerian diaspora, the White House issued Proclamation 10949, effective January 1, 2026. This policy imposes partial travel restrictions on Nigerian nationals. The America First doctrine has materialized through increased trade barriers. In 2025, U.S. tariffs on Nigerian goods rose from 10% to 14%, impacting exporters in the oil, gas, and agricultural sectors. Like this video if you want to see more in-depth coverage of how global politics affects Nigeria specifically. What we are witnessing represents a fundamental reshaping of the international order. The administration views policies based on normative values as harming national interests and favors bilateral, issue-specific deals over multilateralism, treating relationships as zero-sum competitions rather than genuine alliances. This approach is being applied across the continent, from the Washington Accords between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, where both countries signed an agreement granting U.S. firms preferential access to Congolese minerals. Security analysts monitoring armed groups in Nigeria have raised alarm about potential consequences. The framing of the U.S. airstrikes as a move to protect Christians is counterproductive, one expert warned, adding that Sokoto's population is predominantly Muslim. There's a lot of suspicion in northern Nigeria against Western countries, and any operation has to really take that into consideration. Even Trump's own advisors have contradicted the official narrative. Trump's claims sharply contradicted comments by his senior advisor on Arab and African affairs, Masad Bolos, who rejected allegations that a genocide against Christians was taking place in Nigeria. We even know that Boko Haram and ISIS are killing more Muslims than Christians. People are suffering from all sorts of backgrounds. Meanwhile, Congress is asserting a greater role in U.S.-Africa relations as it seeks to impose a strategic framework beyond President Donald Trump's singular focus on transactional deal-making. 1 month after the House voted to reauthorize the African Growth and Opportunity Act, the House Foreign Affairs Committee this week advanced legislation to reprioritize conflict prevention at the State Department. The implications for the global order are profound. Competitors such as China and Russia, as well as middle powers such as Turkey and the United Arab Emirates, continue to treat Africa as a key arena in their foreign policy agendas. As America steps back from comprehensive engagement, others are stepping forward. Nigeria and the African continent now face a choice about how to respond. African governments must strengthen regional bodies like the African Union and fully implement initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area to coordinate a unified strategy. By enhancing regional cooperation, building robust institutions, and asserting control over resources, Africa can safeguard its sovereignty. The Christmas strikes were not an ending, but a beginning. Whether this new approach brings stability or chaos to the region remains to be seen. What is certain is that the old rules no longer apply. Subscribe and stay informed as this story continues to develop.